I'm Dr. John Torres with NBC News, and I want to talk to you about a couple of things. One's a study, one's are recommendations from the World Health Organization that came out this week that could directly impact not just your health, but the health of your children. And these are things we're going to talk about on Nightly News tonight. In particular, what it does to children if they're sitting too much and their screen time that they're watching, and what it does to adults as well. But I want to give you a little bit more information so that way when you're watching tonight on Nightly News, you understand what exactly is going on. The first one are World Health Organization recommendations that just came out for children. And in these recommendations, what they said is that children under the age of 1 should not be looking at videos at all. Children above the age of 2, so 2 to 5, should only be looking at these things for 1 hour a day. Maximum 1 hour a day, and it should be quality programming. And then children above the age of 5 should be watched to see what they're watching, to make sure they're watching things that are appropriate. Again, 1 and below, no watching video. 2 to 5, 1 hour video. Above 5, just be careful what they're watching. This is a little different than what the American Academy of Pediatrics came out with back last year. And what they said is under 18 months, they should not be watching video at all, except for video chatting. 18 to 24 months, only high quality programming. That programming should be with a parent or guardian to walk them through what's going on there. And 2 to 5 years old, an hour at the most. But what a lot of experts are saying is you have to realize that this is this generation's new devices. These are things they're going to grow up with. And so they're taking it a little bit with a grain of salt, saying, yes, it's nice having these guidelines, but at the same time, we need to be a little bit more realistic and understand that children are going to be watching these things as long as parents are involved with them watching it, and understand, especially for the young ones, under 2, under 18 months, that they're not watching these videos unless they're watched very closely. And again, if it's a video chat, fine. If it's just programming, you don't want it to become the electronic babysitter. The study that came out was from the Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA. And what they found out is as adults, we're sitting way too much. We're sitting at least 6 hours a day. As adolescents, they're sitting 8+ hours a day. And you might imagine what the culprits are, TV being one of them. But the surprising finding is that the TV, over the last decade or so, the amount of time people have watched TV has not really gone up. It's around 2 hours a day. What has gone up instead is the amount of time they spend on their computers. That has drastically increased, and that's causing us to sit more. The problem is when we sit more, we increase our risk of diabetes, we increase our risk of cardiac disease, we increase our risk of having strokes and obesity, and that's the big concern with a lot of experts. So what can you do? Well, exactly what I'm doing here. Get up and move around. It's those little things that count. Those little things add up during the day. So take the escalators instead of taking, take the stairs instead of taking the escalators or the elevators. Park further away and walk into work. If you're going to email somebody or phone call them, instead of doing that, simply walk to their office and talk to them in their office. That way you get the exercise while you're doing that. And then again, taking the stairs, we'll talk to you tonight about how important that can be to your overall health. So 2 things came out here. One is that children watching too much video, and there's limits on how much they should watch. Again, we'll go over those on Nightly News tonight. And part of that's because the children need to get up and move around, because it turns out that both children and adults were sitting way too much during the day. It's going to have a huge, huge impact on our health. So again, main point here, get up, turn off the screen, get out and exercise a little bit and just move around to get those benefits to your health. Now, I want to see if we have any questions here.
So let's start with, so many Americans are sitting all day at work. Does exercise before or after work offset the effects of sitting?
And you would think that if you exercise half an hour to an hour and then you go sit for 6 hours, that the two would kind of cancel each other out. Well, it turns out it doesn't quite work that way. Sitting takes such a heavy toll on our bodies that even if you exercise is fantastic, it's the thing you need to do, but that exercise is not going to offset the amount of time that most of us sit during the day. And if you can imagine it, usually people drive an hour into work, they're at work for 8 hours, probably sit for 6 of those, drive an hour home and sit 2 hours to watch TV. So we're talking 10 hours of sitting right there in a given day. Exercise is not going to counter that, and that's why it's those little things during the day. Every hour and a half or so, get up and walk around. Just take a 10-minute little walk. At lunchtime, instead of eating at a desk, walk around with some of your coworkers and eat while you're walking. If you're having a meeting, have a walking meeting, or even stand up during the meeting and move around a little bit. Those little things can help in addition to the exercise, but the exercise by itself is not going to counter all the sitting we're doing during the day. Still a good thing to do, though.
So here's someone who's talking about getting a stand-up desk at work. Is standing have the same benefits of getting up and kind of moving around?
I, like you, used to think that stand-up desks were the answer to a lot of things, and I think a lot of people did. But what the experts are finding, and tonight we're talking to Dr. Laffin, he's one of the experts, a preventive cardiologist on Nightly News, asked him exactly that question. And what he told me is standing desks probably don't do that much for our overall health. But what they do is they convince us that we need to walk around a lot more. So if you're using a standing desk just to stand there, it's probably not going to add that much more to your health. It's certainly going to help more than sitting. But what you need to do is not just stand, but while you're standing, get up and move around, especially that every hour, hour and a half or so. So again, bottom line, the desk by itself, no. If you incorporate that desk with moving around a lot more, yes.
So here's a question about the screen time in kids. If a lot of that is going to be educational programming, is that still kind of something that parents should be worrying about?
So the the American Academy of Pediatrics, the AAP, came out and they said as long as it's what we call high quality programming, but even with high quality programming, they don't want you to extend those time limits because then it becomes more or less an electronic babysitter. And they say that parents, guardians, babysitters, whoever's with that child needs to watch that programming with them to make sure, one, it's age appropriate, and two, that the child fully understands and is involved with what's going on in the programming, not just watching it. It's that passive watching, that passive listening and watching that can be a problem, and they want to make sure that you're getting away from that and there's actually some involvement on the child's part. It's not just, again, something they're looking at and not doing anything else with.
Mm-hmm. And we'll have one more question. So what should people be more concerned about? Screen time at your desk because you're sitting there at the computer, or the fact that you're just sitting there?
And this is a great question because it's one of those almost chicken and the egg type things. The screen time, the reason these recommendations are coming out is because they're saying the kids aren't moving enough, they're not getting exercise. And we know overweight and obesity is becoming a huge problem, especially for children, to the point where it's an epidemic in the United States and a lot of parts across the world. So what they're saying is cutting back on that screen time not only helps with their brain development, but also can help with their physical fitness. So I think overall the first step is getting away from that screen time and then getting them more exercise, combining the two. So it's hard to say one's actually better than the other one. You want to make sure that you're working on both ends there. So again, thank you for watching this. I'm Dr. John Torres. Tonight on Nightly News, we're going to talk exactly about this, about the screen time children should be having, screen time adults should be having for that matter, and how much we all need to get up and move around a little bit more. Hope you have a great day.